was John. This man came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of the light. That was the true light which gives light to every man coming into the world. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 6 through 9.
If you're spending hard-earned money on supplements, you need to know about BioSuperfood because you're probably shortchanging yourself on nutrition and value. If you're buying products claiming to provide DNA protection from radiation, you're getting ripped off by inferior copycat products because there's no other product developed or researched like BioSuperfood. BioSuperfood is one complete superfood product that addresses radiation poisoning, allergies, arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, and other degenerative diseases. BioSuperfood helps digestion, decreases pain and inflammation, increases flexibility, improves heart health and brain function. It boosts your immune system and even inhibits the AIDS virus and cancerous cells. It's an antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory. BioSuperfood is not another supplement. It's a whole food and contains over 5,000 nutrients. Call now and ask about your special discounts on your BioSuperfood purchase at 303-257-7576. That's 303-257-7576 or biosuperfood@hotmail.com.
So much happening in the world that I want to use every available second to bring the news to you. Beginning with a press release that I just received within the last half hour from Congressman Ron Paul. It just got sent out to the media. Here's what it says. The headline, House votes overwhelmingly to audit the Fed. I quote, Congressman Ron Paul today applauded the passage by the House of Representatives of H.R. 459, the Federal Reserve Transparency Act. The bill, which calls for a full audit of the Federal Reserve System, including its lending facilities and critical monetary policy operations, passed overwhelmingly by a bipartisan vote of 327 to 98. I am very pleased that the House passed my audit the Fed legislation today, Congressman Paul stated. It has been a long, hard fight, but Congress finally is getting serious about exercising its oversight responsibility over the Federal Reserve. Auditing the Fed is a common-sense issue supported by the overwhelming majority of the American people. The Fed's trillions of dollars worth of asset purchases and its ongoing support of foreign central banks cannot be allowed to continue without congressional oversight. Today's passage of H.R. 459 is a good first step towards full Fed transparency, and I hope that the Senate will consider the bill before the end of the year. Stop. My friends, good news is so few and far between that I hate to rain on anyone's parade. My hat is off to Congressman Ron Paul. If there was ever an agency, and I won't say a government agency because the Fed ain't part of the government, if there was ever an agency that impacted Americans' lives, indeed the entire human race's lives, that needed to be audited, it's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, as you may or may not know, is a sham. It's a scam. It was created when the lights were out and no one was looking back in 1913, and ever since it has been devaluing our currency, causing inflation, and basically reducing us to poverty. Is auditing the Federal Reserve a good thing? Yes. Is it enough? Not nearly enough. Can we count on Congress to truly expose the Federal Reserve to the light of day? Well, this is where I get kind of cynical. I don't think the people in Congress will do it. They'll take steps that'll look like they're doing it. They may even give the Fed a rap on the knuckles, and once the photo ops are done and the press releases are handed out, it'll go back to business as usual. That's the hard-bitten journalist in me speaking. Can we really force the Fed to air its laundry, its dirty laundry in public? I don't think we can. I hope we can. I don't think we can. Is that enough? No. What do we need the Federal Reserve to do? I'm glad you asked. We need the Federal Reserve to disappear. We need it to cease to exist. The Federal Reserve prints dollar bills. I wish I could do that. The Constitution says the government prints dollar bills. You may ask, well, what the hell is the difference? I'm glad you asked again, and I'll tell you again. If the government prints a dollar bill, we have a dollar bill. When the Federal Reserve prints a dollar bill, we have a dollar bill plus interest that we need to pay to the Federal Reserve. In other words, with every dollar the Fed creates, it also creates indebtedness. Who would vote for such an idiotic thing? Well, the people who were in cahoots with the Fed back in 1913. The bankers and the politicians they owned. And we've been paying for it ever since. Now that we've had Barack Obama as president and debt has shot through the stratosphere, we've got to take action, significant action, to save our country and, by extension, the rest of the world. Auditing the Fed is, as Ron Paul says, a good first step. What's the last step? The last step is the elimination of the Federal Reserve. Item from Kurt Nimmo at Infowars.com. Appearing on the Alex Jones Show today, investigative journalist Wayne Madsen said accused shooter James Holmes had a number of links to U.S. government-funded research centers, including the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. James Holmes was one of 6 recipients of a National Institutes of Health neuroscience training grant at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus in Denver. Madsen writes for the Wayne Madsen Report. The Anschutz Medical Campus is on the recently decommissioned site of the U.S. Army's Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center and is named after Philip Anschutz, the billionaire Christian fundamentalist oil and railroad tycoon who owns the Examiner newspaper chain, the website, and the neoconservative Weekly Standard, Madsen explains. The Anschutz Medical Campus was built with a $91 million grant from the Anschutz Foundation. Holmes also worked as a research assistant at the Salk Institute at the University of California at San Diego and La Jolla. The Salk Institute teamed up with DARPA, Columbia University, University of California at San Francisco, University of Wisconsin at Madison, Wake Forest University, and the candy company Mars, quote, to prevent fatigue in combat troops through the enhanced use of epicatechina. I just murdered that word. Epicatechina, a blood flow increasing and blood vessel dilating antioxidant flavanol found in cocoa and particularly in dark chocolate, according to Madsen's research. The DARPA program was part of the military's Peak Soldier Performance Program, which involved engineering brain-machine interfaces for battlefield use and other bionic projects. In addition, James Holmes' father, Dr. Robert Holmes, worked for San Diego-based HNC Software Incorporated, a company that worked with DARPA to develop Cortronic neural networks that enable machines to translate oral and visual stimuli and stimulate human thinking. The Holmes family appears to have deep connections to the military-industrial complex. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Holmes, the grandfather of James Holmes, was a graduate Turkish language graduate of the Army Language School, later the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. The same military installation, incidentally, were alleged 9/11 hijacker Saeed al-Ghamdi trained. The elder Holmes, Madsen notes, more than likely worked in intelligence. Typically, U.S. military officers conversant in Turkish served with either the Defense Intelligence Agency or the CIA at either the U.S. Embassy in Ankara or the Consulate General in Istanbul, or both, he writes. Was James Holmes engaged in the real-life Jason Bourne Treadstone project that broke down and resulted in deadly consequences in Aurora, Colorado? Madsen concludes, Operation Treadstone was a fictional top-secret CIA project under which the character Jason Bourne underwent behavioral modification. My friends, if you remember Sirhan, if you remember other instances, MK Ultra, the CIA mind control, is there anything to it? I don't know.
He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 10 through 13. the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve, as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescents to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188.
The Beth Messiah Congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal, mid-Rosh and fellowship. Beth Messiah Congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath.
My friends, welcome back to Real Truth. John Whitehead, Rutherford Institute, the selling of the presidency, politics in the age of television. Go.
We've got to face it. Politics have entered a new stage, the television stage. Instead of long-winded public debates, the people want capsule slogans. Time for a change. The mess in Washington. More bang for a buck. Punchlines and glamour. This statement by General Hainsworth, the corporate mogul, in the film Face in a Crowd, made in 1957, more than aptly sums up the state of affairs in politics and television, and the whole commercial and celebrity-driven status of politics that we see today. Barack Obama, for example, his changing believe in slogan has now become forward, and Mitt Romney's slogan is believe in America. Things we've all heard before, and sometimes they don't seem to make any sense, but they're intended to make an impact and influence you with soundbite slogans, pandering to you, hoping to get your vote. But no matter what happens on Election Day, as we should have learned from past presidencies, past congressional elections, even local politics, not a lot changes in this country. We're overtaxed. We have trouble paying our mortgages. We're still going to have trouble getting health insurance. There are going to be poor people on the streets. There's going to be endless wars. Some people have to borrow to pay taxes. These things will continue and continue and continue because we haven't learned our lesson. The government we have today has nothing to do with the way the government was originally intended to be in this country. There was never intended to be a central government. Remember the concept of federalism? Government was supposed to be local at the cities, towns, counties, and states. Today we have a central bureaucracy. And unfortunately, that central bureaucracy run out of Washington, D.C. is controlled by a corporate elite. And this corporate elite has learned that through television they can control elections. With the Supreme Court's disastrous 2010 decision in the Citizens United case, by holding that corporations can spend endless amount of money in partisan politics, they're driving what candidates do, what candidates say, and how candidates are positioned. In other words, they're selling us a product, and that product is the candidate that you vote for. Just think about it for a moment. When you watch a television commercial about a politician, a presidential candidate, they're usually 30 seconds to 60 seconds long. How much can you learn about that candidate? That's why most commercials are aimed at your fears and your prejudices, to get you in a negative mood to vote against a particular candidate. They're not discussing real issues, the issues that I've talked about in this particular broadcast, about unemployment. What can we really do about that? Health care. How can we get homeless people off the street? How can we raise the literacy rate in the United States? You don't get this. All you get is negative ads aimed at your fears, trying to manipulate you into buying the product. And the product in this case is the particular candidate that the commercial is pushing. I've written a commentary on this subject, called The Selling of the Presidency, found at Rutherford.org, which goes into detail about what I'm talking about in terms of television-driven ads and how they manipulate us. But the bottom line is this. The large corporate entities driven by Madison Avenue ad executives that position candidates are selling the candidates as if they were toothpaste. So we're buying a product, folks. But this is not anything new. As General Hainsworth, the corporate mogul in the film Face of the Crowd, summed it up very accurately. My study of history has convinced me that in every strong society, from the Egyptians on, the masses had to be guided with a strong hand by a responsible elite. Let us not forget that in TV we have the greatest instrument for mass persuasion in the history of the world. So the solution? Turn off the television. Stop watching political ads. Stop being manipulated. Go on the Internet. Read what the candidates really believe. Read your local newspaper and make an informed decision.
And for those of you who have better things to do with your lives than that, well, I feel sorry for you. Let me play another video for you before I move on. The top 10 documents that President Obama needs to release. Very simple, very basic, very clear-cut. Here we go.
As the Obama campaign and the media continue to press Mitt Romney to release more of his tax returns and to suggest, without a shred of evidence, that he is a felon, it is worth noting how much critical information Barack Obama has withheld from view, both as a candidate in 2008 and during his term in office. Here is a Breitbart News top 10 list of things that Obama has refused to release. A complete list would fill volumes. Number 10, state Senate papers. Number 9, academic transcripts. Number 8, book proposal. Number 7, medical records. Number 6, small dollar donors. Number 5, the Khalidi tape. Number 4, the Riell White House guest list. Number 3, countless Freedom of Information Act requests. Number 2, health reform negotiations. Number 1, Fast and Furious documents. The preceding video is based on a Washington Times article, abstracted from an article by Joel B. Pollack of Breitbart's Big Government.
And so, if there's anyone out there who's planning on voting for Barack Obama, first of all, you're probably listening to the wrong radio show. Second of all, insist that he live up to his promises. He promised the most transparent presidency that we've seen in a long, long time. It has been the least transparent presidency that we've seen in a long time. Item from westernjournalism.com. Michelle Bachmann and 4 other Republican congressional representatives requested, quote, that no Muslim Brotherhood-associated entity or individual be placed into a position of honor or trust within the programs and operations of the Department of State unless he or she has publicly condemned and disclaimed the previous stated goals of the Muslim Brotherhood. At no time did these congressional representatives imply that Huma Abedin, Deputy Chief of Staff for the State Department, was part of a nefarious conspiracy. Monday, Waleed Shubat published his 37-page booklet entitled Proof, Huma Has Ties to Muslim Brotherhood, Countless Documents Surface. This was followed up with Tuesday's update that, quote, Huma Abedin served on board with Al-Qaeda Godfather, unquote. Shubat states that the latest discoveries, quote, include but are not limited to proof that Hillary Clinton's Deputy Chief of Staff, Huma Abedin, served on the board of IMMA from at least 12/2/02 to 9/24/08, and that, quote, Al-Qaeda Godfather Abdullah Omar Nassif served on IMMA's advisory board from at least 12/2/02 to 12/3/03. Is this not sufficient to vindicate Michelle Bachmann's very reasonable concerns? Besides extensively citing all of Huma Abedin's family connections to the Muslim Brotherhood and Muslim Sisterhood, Shubat maintains that, quote, neither Huma Abedin, Hillary's aide, or any major Western media even mention what is common knowledge in the Arab circles regarding Hassan Abedin and his connections or activities, unquote. Hassan is Huma's brother. Why the virtual silence? Item from Independent Journal Review. The president recently took time out of his busy schedule of not addressing the nation's economic problems to work a California campaign fundraiser. When asked why he should be reelected, he said of his economic policies, quote, "We tried our plan and it worked," unquote. The nation is currently experiencing an unemployment rate of over 8% for the 41st straight month, the worst trend since the Great Depression. My friends, I'll just cut in here for a second and point out that 8% is hooey. It's the result of government accountant/magician/illusionists. The real number is probably easily double that. Let me continue. Quote, "While completely ignoring that the subprime mortgage crisis could have been possibly a factor in stifling America's economy, the president condemned Bush's top-down economic policies, the ones that created 52 straight months of job creation, and tried to indict Mitt Romney's pro-growth approach of tax cuts and spending cuts. Obama claimed he tried this approach and it didn't work. There is currently a tremendous amount of cognitive dissonance on the left that Barack Obama has been a relatively small government president who's presided over the lowest rate of government growth since Dwight Eisenhower. But Obama signed the fiscal year 2009 budget into law that exploded government spending. It was drafted by a Democrat majority House of Representatives that had responsibility for initiating the budget process since 2006. Since the 2009 budget, the United States federal government has been running the worst budget deficits in American history. Obama's deficits have been running at least $1 trillion per year since he took office. President Obama is already responsible for more debt than all former American presidents combined. His latest budget, voted down unanimously in the House and Senate, signals that Obama wants even more spending and has no concern for putting even more stress on the economy. In the meantime, more citizens are on food stamps than at any point in U.S. history, and fewer Americans are paying taxes. Under Ronald Reagan, 85% of Americans paid taxes. Under Barack Obama, that statistic is down to 49.5%. The Democrat Party has been attaining power by paying off one class of citizen with the incomes of another. The nation's economic health is not the goal. Power is the goal, unquote. Absolutely correct. Item from Israel National News. An Iraqi news agency has revealed more evidence linking Saudi Arabia with terror. The Barada News Service published what it said is a secret document disclosing how much money the Saudi kingdom has transferred to Al-Qaeda in Iraq. The kingdom reportedly sends explosives and weapons to terrorist groups in Iraq. The Saudi kingdom publicly condemns terror, but frequently has been accused of financing terrorists and terrorism. It also has been charged with direct involvement in the September 11, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center Twin Towers in New York and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. A third airliner aimed at the White House crashed instead in a field in Pennsylvania after passengers, knowing they were doomed, rushed their terrorist captors and sent the plane into a nosedive a scant few miles short of its target. 15 of the 19 hijackers in the multiple aerial attacks were Saudis. A report 2 years ago by the Times of London dubbed Saudi Arabia as a, quote, hub of world terror, unquote, and reported that the kingdom, quote, supplies the cash and the killers, unquote. 2 sons of the Saudi ruling family have been killed fighting for Al-Qaeda. Stop! I haven't seen anyone, my friends, ask Barack Obama or Mitt Romney what America's stance via Saudi Arabia should be. My guess is they would say something along the lines that Saudi Arabia is a valued ally in the Middle East. In fact, that's crap. Saudi Arabia is the financier for much of the world's terrorism. I say Saudi Arabia goes bye-bye. Item from theblaze.com. Following President Barack Obama's highly criticized "you didn't build that" remark about business owners last week, some owners have submitted photos of their businesses for a 2-minute "I built this" video takedown of Obama's comments. Organized by Bristol Palin, daughter of 2008 Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, the video features dozens of photos from a variety of businesses. Since the president doesn't understand how our economy works, let's take a moment to explain how small businesses are created, Palin wrote on her blog. More importantly, let's show them the businesses we've made and who has made them. Stop. Crystal, you're in Bristol, Crystal, what's the difference? You're not going to teach Barack Obama anything. He knows that people create small businesses. He's saying people don't because he wants big government and because the truth doesn't mean a thing to him. Don't go around trying to teach Barack Obama anything. Go around trying to get Barack Obama the hell out of the White House. Item from Mike Riggs. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg told CNN's Piers Morgan last night that he doesn't, quote, understand why police officers across this country don't stand up collectively and say we're going to go on strike. We're not going to protect you unless you, the public, through your legislature, do what's required to keep us safe, unquote, meaning get rid of people's guns. We've been hearing a lot of that recently. Earlier this year, the New York Times reprinted the Department of Justice press release and slapped this lead on top of it, quote, as violent crime has decreased across the country, a disturbing trend has emerged. Rising numbers of police officers are being killed. Bloomberg and the New York Times are both wrong. In 2008, 10 times more civilians were killed by cops than cops were killed by perps. In 2011, 72 cops were shot and killed in the entire U.S. In L.A. County alone, cops shot and killed 54 suspects the same year. 22% of those people were unarmed. As Scott Reeder reported at Reason this morning, quote, farmers, ranchers, commercial fishermen, loggers, garbage collectors, truck drivers, construction workers, pilots, steel workers, roofers, and others are far more likely to face death on the job than police or firefighters, unquote. My friends, what's happening is this. They want our guns. They're not going to get them. We'll be back.
Looking for the perfect answer to your nutrition and health needs? Look no further. BioSuperfood, developed to heal the peoples, animals, and land after the Chernobyl disaster, has the most complete, powerful nutritional analysis for health and wellness. Easy to digest, BioSuperfood contains complete proteins, amino acids, and vitamins A, B complex, B12, C, E, D, and K. It contains minerals and trace elements like calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, iodine, manganese, zinc, selenium, silicon, and it provides essential fatty acids, omega-3, 6, and 9. It's high in gamma-linoleic acid and has thousands of active enzymes and phytonutrients like chlorophyll, spirulina, and carotenes. Beta-carotene, alpha-carotene, astaxanthin, lutein, lycopene, quercetin, and much more. Save your money, save your time. Compare, and you'll find that there is no more researched or superior product available on the market today. Call now and get your discount prices on your next BioSuperfood at 303-257-7576, 303-257-7576, or BioSuperfood@hotmail.com. The Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He makes the plans of the peoples of no effect. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart to all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. Psalm 33, verses 10 through 12.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. This is the America News Network.
Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescent to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188.
Whether you're in automotive, sporting goods, hardware, health, wellness, electrical, electronics, construction, carpet cleaning, legal, or animal care, and offer exceptional customer service and provide quality services or goods, you're honest, reliable, and professional. If you have a business, we have the customers. Let us put you in touch with our loyal, supportive, and dedicated listeners today. They're waiting to hear from you. It's inexpensive. It's effective. Call KHNC at 1-800-205-6245.
Friends, welcome back to Real Truth. Mega upload boss Kim.com has launched an online song attacking U.S. President Barack Obama and urging supporters not to vote for the U.S. leader, who he accuses of trampling on Internet freedom. In a song titled Mr. President, released on YouTube, the self-styled cyber freedom fighter, who allegedly masterminded a massive online piracy business, compares himself to U.S. civil rights campaigner Martin Luther King. .com, free on bail in New Zealand, awaiting U.S. attempt to extradite him for alleged copyright theft, raps, "Don't vote for those who would take us back in time." What about free speech, Mr. President? What happened to change, Mr. President? The German national continues in the song, which has attracted almost 500,000 views since it was posted on YouTube on Sunday. He also complains Hollywood controls politics and the government is killing innovation. My friends, I'm going to do more than tell you about the song. Let's give a listen.
The war for the internet has begun. Hollywood is in control of politics. The government is killing innovation. Don't let them get away with that. I have a dream, like Dr. King. This is the time to stand up and fight. By any means, if we don't do anything, they will just blame it on the copyright. Keep this movement going. Keep this movement tweeting. Keep this movement moving. Let's get together. Let's all unite. Or they will do whatever they like. Let's get together. Let's all unite. Or they will do whatever they like. What about free speech, Mr. President? What happened to change, Mr. President? Are you pleading the fifth, Mr. President? Are you going to fix it, Mr. President? We must oppose, don't vote for those who want to take us back in time. We must expose the people who chose to turn innovation into crime. Let's get together, let's all unite, or they will do whatever they like. Let's get together, let's all unite, or they will do whatever they like. What about free speech, Mr. President? What happened to change, Mr. President? Are you pleading the fifth, Mr. President? Are you going to fix it, Mr. President? Hollywood marionettes taking over our internet. Don't let them get away with that. Don't let them get away with that. It starts with you and me. We will make history. It starts with you and me. We will make history. Let's get together, let's all unite, or they will do whatever they like. Let's get together, let's all unite, or they will do whatever they like. What about free speech, Mr. President? What happened to change, Mr. President? Are you pleading the fifth, Mr. President? Are you going to fix this, Mr. President? Keep sharing the song. If you can't block, tweet. If you can't tweet, like. But by all means, keep sharing.
But just a song.
Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. You'll find this video at myfoxdc.com. Now, if you have got children who are about to graduate or have just graduated from high school, or if you know someone whose kids are about to graduate from high school, listen to this from Congressman Dennis Kucinich.
Hi, I'm United States Congressman Dennis Kucinich. This is a special message for high school students across the country. The Armed Services Vocational Test is offered to high school students. It's a recruiting tool for the military, disguised as a career aptitude test. Every year this test is given to more than 600,000 high school students, many of whom believe that taking the test is required by the high school. You're not required to take the test. Your school administrators may not even know it. You have rights, including the right to privacy, and some schools are forcing you to give up those rights under the guise of participating in routine testing. Personal information from the test is sent directly to military recruiters, and 90% of the time, it's without your knowledge and without the permission of your parents. Information on race, ethnicity, social security numbers go right to the recruiter. Parents are not informed that their children are given the test. High school students do not know they don't have to take the test. Most school administrators are unaware that the administration of the test is optional. They don't know that personal information does not have to be sent to military recruiters. I want to make it clear, it is honorable to serve America in the military, and I urge young people to find ways to serve our country. But students, parents, and high school administrators need to protect students' right to privacy and the right of parents to be involved in life-changing decisions by their children. Students, schools, and parents should be informed of their rights regarding this test. Students have a right to privacy, and we must not have big government gathering personal information on young Americans, particularly without their knowledge or permission. Learn more about your rights at the link below. Thank you.
My friends, you'll find this video on YouTube. I think I also linked to it on my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio. The headline is a special message to high school students. My friends, it is important that we know this stuff. Item from pjmedia.com. Fresh off of handing a diversity award to outspoken Jew-hater Dawood Walid, the Islamic Society of North America is moving on to a new outrage by launching an attack on the U.S. Constitution. The current issue of ISNA's bi-monthly magazine, Islamic Horizon, carries an article about ISNA's demand for gun control. Specifically, the article with the unambiguous title, ISNA Seeks Gun Control, cites the shooting of Trayvon Martin to explain their opposition to S-2188, the National Right to Carry Reciprocity Act of 2012, and S-2213, the Respecting States' Rights and Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2012. Stop. My friends, in a related item, foxes call for taking the doors off of chicken coops. Item from Reuters. Efforts to reduce risky sexual behavior among U.S. high school students have stalled in the past decade, and urgent action is needed to stem HIV infection rates in young people, who account for nearly half of all new cases, public health officials say. The National Youth Risk Behavior Survey, released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Tuesday, analyzed. I'm going to stop right there, but when I come back, I'm going to come right back to us. Children are our number one priority, and so we're going to hear the entirety of this item here on Real Truth. Well, my name's not Real.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution
CINN Stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine. Point and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN Stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices. With the summer months upon us, let's all keep an extra special eye out for our senior citizens. Check on them on a regular basis, especially when the weather is hot. Make sure they have what they need. Someday we'll all be in that position. Wouldn't you like to have someone watch out for you? That's from Brush Housing Authority, reminding listeners, for housing programs, call 970-845-5046. That's 970-845-5046. That's Brush Housing Authority on the air, wishing everyone a great summer season.
Back to Real Truth. Let me start again from Reuters. Efforts to reduce risky sexual behavior among U.S. high school students have stalled in the past decade, and urgent action is needed to stem HIV infection rates in young people, who account for nearly half of all new cases, public health officials say. The National Youth Risk Behavior Survey, released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Tuesday, analyzed 20 years of national HIV-related risk behavior data on U.S. high school students, primarily between the ages of 14 and 17. It found that while progress was made in the 1990s, when a decline was seen in the number of students who admitted to having multiple sexual partners, those rates have largely held steady since 2001. The data was released in conjunction with the International AIDS Society's annual conference in Washington. We have to think about opportunities either to redouble our efforts or refine our efforts to get back on track, said Kevin Fenton, director of CDC's National Center for HIV, AIDS, Viral Hepatitis, STD, and Tuberculosis Prevention. Laura Kahn, a senior CDC scientist, has led the survey since its inception in 1987. She said the latest results gave reason for concern, as recent statistics showed 40% of all new HIV infections are occurring among young people under the age of 30. In all, an estimated 1.1 million Americans are currently living with the human immunodeficiency virus that causes AIDS. Too many high school students in this country are at risk for HIV because they've had sexual intercourse, had multiple sex partners, and are having unprotected sexual intercourse without a condom, she said. Any kid that's practicing those behaviors is putting themselves at risk. Unquote. My friends, they're only kids. You, their parents, are grown-ups. Get involved. Take action. Item from the Economic Collapse blog. I quote, every single day more Americans fall into poverty. This should deeply alarm you no matter what political party you belong to and no matter what your personal economic philosophy is. Right now, approximately 100 million Americans are either poor or near poor. For a lot of people, poverty can be a nebulous concept, so let's define it. The poverty level as defined by the federal government in 2010 was $11,139 for an individual and $22,314 for a family of four. Could you take care of a family of four on less than $2,000 a month? Millions upon millions of families are experiencing a tremendous amount of pain in this economy, and no matter what, quote, solutions we think are correct, the reality is we should all have compassion on them. Sadly, things are about to get even worse. The next major economic downturn is rapidly approaching, and when it hits, the statistics posted below are going to look even more horrendous. When it comes to poverty, most Americans immediately want to get into debates about tax rates and wealth redistribution and things like that. But the truth is they're missing the main point. The following are 40 facts about poverty in America that will blow your mind. 1. In the U.S. today, somewhere around 100 million Americans are considered to be either poor or near poor. 2. It's being projected that when the final numbers come out later this year, that the U.S. poverty rate will be the highest that it's been in almost 50 years. 3. Approximately 57% of all children in the U.S. are living in homes that are either considered to be low income or impoverished. 4. Today, 1 out of every 4 workers in the United States brings home wages that are at or below the poverty level. 5. According to the Wall Street Journal, 49.1% of all Americans live in a home where at least one person receives financial benefits from the government. 6, it's projected about half of all American adults will spend at least some time living below the poverty line before they turn 65. 7, today there are approximately 20.2 million Americans who spend more than half their incomes on housing. That represents a 46% increase from 2001. Number 8, during 2010, 2.6 million more Americans fell into poverty. That was the largest increase that we've seen since the U.S. government began keeping statistics on this back in 1959. Number 9, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the percentage of very poor rose in 300 out of 360 largest metropolitan areas during 2010. Number 10, since Barack Obama became president, the number of Americans living in poverty has risen by 6 million, and the number of Americans on food stamps has risen by 14 million. Number 11, right now 1 out of every 7 Americans is on food stamps, and 1 out of every 4 American children is on food stamps. 12, it's projected that half of all American children will be on food stamps at least once before they turn 18. Number 13, the poverty rate for children living in the U.S. is 22%. Although when the new numbers are released in the fall, that number is expected to go even higher. Number 14, one university study estimates that child poverty costs the U.S. economy $500 billion a year. Number 15, households that are led by a single mother have a 31.6% poverty rate. Number 16, in 2010, 42% of all single mothers in the U.S. were on food stamps. 17, according to the National Center for Children in Poverty, 36.4% of all children that live in Philadelphia are living in poverty. 40.1% of all children who live in Atlanta are living in poverty. 52.6% of all children that live in Cleveland are living in poverty. And 53.6% of all children that live in Detroit are living in poverty. Number 18. Since 2007, the number of children living in poverty in the state of California has increased by 30%. 19. Child homelessness in the U.S. has risen by 33% since 2007. Number 20, there are 314 counties in the United States where at least 30% of the children are facing food insecurity. 21, more than 20 million U.S. children rely on school meal programs to keep from going hungry. 22, a higher percentage of Americans is living in extreme poverty, that's 6.7%, than has ever been measured before. 23, if you can believe it, 37% of all U.S. households that are led by someone under the age of 35 have a net worth of 0 or less than 0. Number 24, a lot of younger Americans have found that they cannot make it on their own in this economy. Today, approximately 25 million American adults are living with their parents. 25, today 1 out of every 6 elderly Americans lives below the federal poverty line. 26, amazingly, the wealthiest 1% of all Americans own more wealth than the bottom 95% combined. 27, the 6 heirs of Walmart founder Sam Walton have a net worth that's roughly equal to the bottom 30% of all Americans combined. 28, at this point, the poorest 50% of all Americans now control just 2.5% of all the wealth in this country. Number 29, we'll be back when we come from a commercial. We'll finish up the last 4 minutes of the show with more scary news. We'll be back.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, The feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work on it. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1 through 3.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
The Beth Messiah congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal, mid-Rosh, and fellowship. Beth Messiah congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath. CINN stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine, point, and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices.
Friends, welcome back to Real Truth. We'll finish up the show with more from the Economic Collapse blog. I invite you to visit my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio, and find the link to this piece. Go to the Economic Collapse blog yourself. Start reading and start sharing, number 29. Back in 1980, less than 30% of all jobs in the United States were low-income jobs. Today, more than 40% of all jobs in the U.S. are low-income jobs. Number 30. Right now, the United States actually has a higher percentage of workers doing low-wage work than any other major industrialized nation. 31. Half of all American workers earn $505 or less per week. 32. In 1970, 65% of all Americans lived in middle-class neighborhoods. By 2007, only 44% of all Americans lived in middle-class neighborhoods. Number 33. Federal housing assistance outlays increased by a whopping 42%. Between 2006 and 2010. Number 34, approximately 50 million Americans do not have any health insurance at all right now. 35, back in 1965, only 1 out of every 50 Americans was on Medicaid. Today, approximately 1 out of every 6 Americans is on Medicaid. Number 36, it's being projected that Obamacare will add 16 million more Americans to the Medicaid rolls. 37, back in 1990, the federal government accounted for 32% of all health care spending in America. Today, that figure is up to 45%, and it's projected to surpass 50% very shortly. Number 38, overall, the amount of money the federal government gives directly to the American people has risen by 32% since Barack Obama entered the White House. Number 39, it was recently reported that 1.5 million American families live on less than $2 a day before counting government benefits. Number 40, the unemployment rate in the U.S. has been above 8% for 40 months in a row, and 42% of all unemployed Americans have been out of work for at least half a year. Recently, I wrote a long article about why there will never be enough jobs in the United States ever again. That means that a whole lot of Americans are not going to be able to take care of themselves. As our economy gets even worse, there's going to be a tremendous need for more love, compassion, and generosity all over the country. Don't be afraid to lend a helping hand because someday you may need one yourself. Unquote. Once again, a superb piece from the Economic Collapse blog. Item from Waynesboro, Virginia, the Rutherford Institute. I quote, in response to efforts by the Rutherford Institute, Waynesboro city officials have reversed their previous course of restricting churches wishing to provide temporary shelters to the homeless. At its July 23rd meeting, the Waynesboro City Council voted 4-0 to adopt an amendment to the zoning code that would recognize rotating homeless shelters as by right accessory uses of church buildings. This amendment will eliminate the rigorous permitting process and in some cases outright restriction for churches that wish to take part in a rotating thermal shelter ministry. Institute attorneys had challenged the city's prior interpretation of its zoning ordinance as violating the First Amendment, the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, and Virginia's Act for Religious Freedom, unquote. My friends, what it means is this. Government is always a behemoth. Government had said, churches, you may not house and feed the homeless. As we know, that is exactly bass-ackwards what we should be doing, especially in times of economic stress like today, We need every organization, be it religious or not, that wants to step forward and help those who are less fortunate to be allowed to do so. I take my hat off to the Rutherford Institute for forcing the issue, bringing it to light, exerting pressure, and ultimately putting food in the bellies of people who have none. I'll be back tomorrow with more Real Truth. I invite you to join me then. Until then, my friends, go out and make the world a better place. I'll see you tomorrow.